What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pavement Group podcast. This is episode 11. We have a fascinating guest with us this week, Steve Flaherty with NecoTech. He's going to talk all about the future of plastic asphalt. That's right, plastic asphalt. I don't know anything about it. Sounds fascinating. He's a super smart guy. Happy to have him here. As always, Brian Hess is here with me. Let's get going with episode 11 of the Pavement Group podcast. All right. Thanks for joining us again. Episode 11 here, and we got a good one. This is pretty neat. I've been doing a little bit of research on your product here, Steve, and I can't wait to hear more about it and the process and all that stuff. So welcome, Steve Flaherty from NecoTech. I'm saying that right? It's NecoTech.
Yep. Yeah, NecoTech. Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. As always, Brian Hess here with the Pavement Group, my wingman. Good to see you, brother.
What's happening, man? Yeah, Steve, good to see you, brother. I met this guy, probably a month ago, right? A little over a month ago.
Yeah,
At
just a little bit.
5 o'clock in the morning on Clubhouse, this guy pops into a room and asks me a question. I'm like, how do I not know about this cat? So we're happy to have you, man, and thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, no, pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting us on.
Yeah, you bet. So tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you from?
Yeah, so out of Columbus, Ohio. So I was born down in Dayton, but moved to Columbus when I was a young lad, and grew up in Columbus, and then did a 4-year stint down at Miami University in Ohio, and then a few years down at University of Louisville, and got my MBA in entrepreneurship down there. And that's actually where Neco was kind of birthed from. So we've been working on this since 2008, and moved back into Columbus back in 2010, 2011, I think, and we were out of Delaware, Ohio, which is just north of Columbus, and that's where we operate from.
Very cool. So were you drawn to this more as an entrepreneur trying to find solutions, or was it really like the environmental impact that got you, down this road dealing with plastics and recycling?
Sure. It's probably a combination of things. So, always had an interest in recycling. Growing up, I was the kid that took over the bin for my parents, because I'm looking at the triangles and saying, "Hey, Dad, you can't put those in there. What are you doing?" And so never really thought much about that. It was just something that I guess was an early childhood memory that kind of became ingrained, right? Take care of the environment. And then in our entrepreneurship class or program, they gave the option to go and compete on the venture plan circuit and literally go and present business ideas in front of venture capitalists. They had to be real ideas. It couldn't be just a class project. And so we were looking for different ideas. And one of the members in our group had a connection to a technology that was taking waste plastics and putting it into hot mix asphalt. I had spent my sales career in the infrastructure market, and so I was familiar with it, both on the plastic side and on the asphalt side. So it seemed like a very interesting product. Quite frankly, when we went to competition, we actually flipped it, and we were making a plastic resin because the market for plastic asphalt, it just wasn't, it didn't seem like it was large enough. It was something that the market was not really open to or understanding of. And so we went and competed with the plastic resin. That got a lot of attention just because during those times, this was 2008 through 2010, oil prices were high. So everybody was looking for that lower cost recycled resin. The green movement was out there, but it was still probably considered more of a trend than a staple of decision making. And so we'd always put it out there and say, we recycle plastic resin. This is what we're doing. And then we'd always tease the asphalt product, and by the way, this technology is also used for this, and it would get some, nods and some oohs and ahs, like you're at fireworks, right? But it was really when we went to Walmart, we won Walmart's Midwest Sustainability Business Plan competition. We're one of the national finalists. And when we got to Walmart, the whole messaging or the whole focus changed. We're talking about recycled plastic resin. We pop up the slide on recycled asphalt, and they're like, now what's that? That's cool. And so it really showed us that there, was this potential. There was, this bigger market, and that you could gain the interest of, at the time they were probably, the largest corporation in the world.
Sure.
It was before the rise of Amazon.
They're still doing okay though.
So they're doing okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that showed us, that there's this market out there, for it. So we looked at it, and really kind of started pushing it out there.
Okay.
It still wasn't market ready in the fact that the market, you were going to have to push it and educate the market of why this was so important, why, the plastic crisis wasn't a thing yet. So it was a nice to have, but it wasn't a need. And anytime you're doing that, you're going to spend a lot of capital educating the market, or you're going to burn out before you actually get success. So
yeah, sure.
I did the entrepreneurial thing and put it on the side, kept doing it a little bit on the side. Wife, life, kids, my wife and I have 5 kids now. And so over the next 10 years, we had 5 children, and then 2018 hit, and the plastic crisis was all of a sudden, all the attention, and people were like, oh my gosh, there's this global crisis. And we're like, yeah, we've been talking about that for a while. And so finally, the market was right. And so we kicked it back on, went in, back into high gear, and now we're ready. We got a lot of traction with stuff, and it's going to market.
That's amazing, man. That is really cool. Great story. Let me ask you a question. I don't want to get too specific. I know, developmental phase that you guys are in right now. There's probably a lot of proprietary stuff out there that you can't really discuss. But how do you, because I've seen alternative asphalt products come out and they don't solve the whole problem, right? So you're giving an alternative to using fossil fuels and creating asphalt that way, but it's not as good. Let's just say it's not as it's not going to last. It's not as durable. People end up always going back to the regular asphalt because of that. What can you do with your product that's going to make it stand up to everything that bituminous can?
Yeah. So when we put it in testing, we went through lab testing and kind of scalability and everything like that. When we put it into asphalt, it reduces rutting and cracking and potholes in roads by 80%. Wow. And so, what's that equate to longevity wise? It's obviously enhances it. We've got to put it under wear and tear out there and see, is this a double of life product? Is this a half life? Adding half of a life, sure. So 150% to the product. That's what we're working with now. So we're working with the National Center for Asphalt Technology. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, and we're working with the U.S. Air Force. Okay. And then a number of private industry. But our focus has always been on the performance of the asphalt. We don't want to be a linear landfill. It does no good just to solve the plastic crisis and make a inferior asphalt product. And so
right. It's just going to go back to those landfills, right? Essentially.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So we're about better pavement design. So, and put that first. And, who are your stakeholders? At the end of the day, it's not the plastic, companies or the refuse companies or anything like that. It's the asphalt and pavement owners. So right. Put your stakeholders first, put them up there. And then the kicker, the benefit is that it's a more sustainable pavement, and it happens to be a great solution, for plastic waste. Yeah. But keep the pavement first. Look at life cycle analysis. Asphalt's one of the most recycled pieces out there. Concrete and asphalt are both, heavily recycled, reused. We want to keep that recyclability. So that's what all our focus is on. It's not as glamorous or profitable as some things. You're competing against dirt, but we're looking at a total cost of ownership. If we don't have to go out and maintain those roads as often, if the annual maintenance and crack sealing and everything can be reduced, we've all been there where we've hit a pothole and spilled our coffee or charred our teeth. If we can reduce that, we're contributing to overall livelihood in communities. And then again, also helping solve the plastic waste problem.
Man, Todd, you would think that we trained this guy.
Right.
The way that he talks about total cost of ownership and reduce. I mean, seriously, this is what the industry needs, right? And so when Steve and I met in the first conversation that we had, he was kind of giving me, the background of what the challenges are of taking it to market, right? And so some of the pushback could be from our own industry, right? As a result of, if this product lasts longer, well, then everybody's going to assume that there's less work. Well, it's going to shift at some point. So the reality is, like you said, you put the customer at the center of everything, right? So if we have a product that we're able to provide our customers that's going to extend the longevity, well, they're going to take those resources, that financial capital, and they're going to put it somewhere else anyway, right? So they're going to improve other areas, and there's always going to be work. So that's the one thing that I would say to the people out there in our industry listening, like, embrace these things when they come to market, because number one, it's great for the environment. It solves a huge problem. It's great for our customers. And by the way, if you are on the front end of anything from an early adoption that ends up being massively successful, which this is going to be, then you're going to be at the forefront of everything, right? So instead of having that old school mentality of like, well, let's be suspect of this, or let's not put it down because it's going to take work away from us, or whatever the case is, whatever you're thinking, don't think that way, man. Embrace innovation, try new things, and especially when it's a win-win all the way around for everyone, right? And that's when we got off the phone the first time, I said to Steve, I was like, dude, you're in the 1% of the asphalt industry that actually has some sex appeal to it. Like the rest of it, man, is like, it's hard to market. It's hard to,
it's hard to get people excited about asphalt.
This is so much different and so much more exciting, right?
Sure.
And when you were talking, man, I was thinking, Steve, like, dude, you are winning massive brownie points with my wife right now, man. She would be rummaging through the trash, man, to get out whatever pieces of recycled anything that the kids throw in there, right? And it's critically important to everyone right now, right? To so many people. And so I commend you, man. It's been a long journey getting to this point. I'm excited to see what happens. It seems like, man, there's a light pretty close at the end of the tunnel here, and I'm excited to watch this develop.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. It's been, I mean, everything's an overnight success, right? So 10-year overnight success. I've been fortunate enough to have some awesome advisors and some awesome people to watch and learn from. I mean, I've watched a bunch of buddies build awesome startup companies, and been privy to be able to look and see how they did it, what they did, the successes, but also the mistakes, and then apply that. And it's kind of funny to think about, what other thing out there, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, is still relevant today. I mean, iPhones were just coming out, and we're on iPhone 12, I think. So I mean, the original ones don't even work anymore. So the fact that the window stayed open, we're extremely blessed for. But it's also the timing. The timing is right. I mean, entrepreneurship in general is about timing. And you can either be too early, too late, or that Goldilocks scenario and be just right. So we were a little bit too early originally, but luckily we stayed with it, and there's been a lot of connections that have been made to be able to continue on with it.
I want to dig into that, man. I know it's not pavement related here, but we dig into other things on the podcast too here. But what is that mentorship and the people who have advised you, and just the connections that you continue to make, right? Whether it's connections on Clubhouse or social media, how has that impacted you personally? And then, how is it moving the business forward faster? Because I think, so many people in our industry need to hear that. They need to understand, that mentorship, man, is sometimes the difference between getting 150% out of your efforts and 50% out of your efforts, right? So I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's frank. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without it. There's very few people that are, I mean, even the quote self-made people are not, self-made. They've got people around them. They've got life experiences. mentors and everything else that have, teachers that have shaped who they are. And entrepreneurship in general, I mean, can be such a lonely journey that if you don't have that support system, if you don't have those people in the ear that are helping, eliminate the toxic ones, take their voice with a grain of salt, because every opinion's valid. It's just, put your attention where you can go. But yeah, I mean, that's we wouldn't be here without it. It's helped guide, not only the company and connections, but me personally. I mean, I think there's a reason that it didn't succeed, or that we didn't, launch in 2010 to full market. I wasn't ready. I'm not the same leader and entrepreneur as I was, a decade ago. If we're looking back and we haven't grown or expanded ourselves personally, professionally, spiritually, over a course of time, then what are we really doing, right? We're not getting that growth mindset and not achieving. So, yeah, I mean, I'm ready for it now. Where the connections are there. We believe in collaborative innovation. So, I think the world is kind of shifted in its mentality and its culture as well. That it used to be early 2000s and even into the 2010s there. It's like, hey, this is my sandbox. Go play in yours. Right. And now it's like, hey, this is all of our sandbox. Let's work on this together. And you grab the shovel, I'll go over here and grab some water and dig, and we'll make a better sandcastle. Yeah. So that's the mentality we operate off of. We surround ourselves with those type of people and those type of companies. And I think we're better off for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I think, and that's one of the things that, Todd and I have spoken about this in our industry. That shift, I think, is happening there too, right? Yeah. It's like, that younger generation, I guess, like, because those guys that are older, nothing against that mentality. It's just the way that it was back then, right? And so now it's more of that, let's do this shoulder to shoulder instead of horn to horn, right? Let's find a way to win together. And that abundance mentality, I feel like, is multiplying throughout the world, and I hope throughout our industry as well, man, so that, again, people can collaborate, not feel threatened, and we all accelerate so much faster together, right?
Absolutely.
The old African proverb, right, says if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it's true, man. When you find the right people. And as you and I talked about on the phone, it's like when you find people that your values align, man, you're able to just kind of take your guard down and just go, right? Like you don't have to worry about all the things that business people typically worry about. And that's how innovation actually happens, is like you take the roadblocks out of the way, right? You take those things that are standing in your way. Now you got an army of people instead of a few people educating, pushing it forward, spreading the message, getting it out there. And all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, whoa, man, the market's ready for this.
Right.
Reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've been fortunate enough to even add the Army in with us, with the Army Corps of Engineers. So
yeah, there you go, man.
We took it literally.
It's incredible how it happens. And so I just wanted to dig into that, man, because I think it's so important for people to realize, like, and again, you're representing, you're the front guy, right? But there's so much behind the scenes that goes on that it takes to get here. Like you said, an overnight success in 10 years, right? And how many people and how many sleepless nights and how many things does it take to get to that point? And that's why I admire your journey, man, because it's difficult. Anybody that's built something from scratch knows how difficult it is. And when I look at 10 years, right, and you're like, you're still hanging in there, man, and it's ready to pop. That's what excites me, man. I look at it and say, like, dude, this is so cool, and I can't wait to watch it go to market. Let me ask you this, man. So we have some clients and some large companies that follow this podcast and listen in. What would you say to those, corporations out there that this is obviously going to get on their radar? How would they start looking at this as a potential solution down the road? Like, what does this look like for them? How would they go about potentially implementing it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, our focus has, again, always been on the process and the implementation into the market. We don't want this to have to change major operations at a batch facility to introduce it. We don't want the foreman to have to remember to do something special with our product when we do it. So it gets added to the mix, and it gets laid just like any other. So, what I would suggest is exactly what Walmart, had suggested to us, years ago is, hey, let's try this. Let's try it in a few different locations so that we get a geographic sense on it. And if it works, we've got 3,000 stores. We love that mentality. We're there. We're looking at the ones that are really caring about the environment and putting that mission driven and impact. It's not just about profit. It's about profit with a purpose. I think we're seeing that from the leaders down. From Bezos and Musk and Gates. Giving their fortunes and creating whether it's billions in their own philanthropic ways, or the bonds that the companies themselves are taking out to really take charge where politicians may or may not. So if I think that's the messaging, so that pilot, let's go try it, let's go lay it. We're going to continue to test with some pretty, I think, powerful world-class facilities where we've been blessed to make those connections, and that's the benefit, is that we've got Army Corps of Engineers, #1 civil engineering organization in the world. National Center for Asphalt Technology, arguably the top asphalt, technology lab, in the world. So we're going to continue to work with them. Just like anything, how many mixed designs are there, for pavement, right? So you're not going to use the same pavement everywhere. So we're going to continually evolve and make sure that we've got, again, that focus on the mix. Make sure that we're looking at use cases and continuous innovation. So our phase 1 product 3 years out, I can almost all but guarantee you that it will not be the same mix, because we're going to find new economies of scale, new better ways, and continuous improvement for the product and for the customer base.
Now, with a mix design, man, I'm curious because, in a typical aggregate mix design, there's different sizes, right? So is there any fluctuation in this mix the same way? Like there would be different sizes of the substitute aggregate, so to say, that goes in there? Like, is there a truck mix versus a vehicle mix or anything like that? Or are you just kind of testing one mix right now?
Yeah. So, I think with the company and the things on the entrepreneurial level that you got to look at is you can have too much research. You can never have too much revenue. And so what we want and what we did is we found the blend that worked well for a launch zone product. So let's go out with this. Let's, this applies everywhere. It can be put in any pavement from bike paths to highways. We're going to focus on the private market just because we know that, spec engineering going in with the DOT is going to take some time. They're going to want to see it laid, which is the benefit of this NCAT test. If we do well there, we go on to a phase 2. It's a 3-year accelerated test study on the test tracks that's paid for by the state DOTs. So they're wanting to see this. The industry, they've done some testing with plastic in there, but it's still, we don't want to repeat what we saw with some of the asphalt shingle stuff where it was hot and good, and then we laid down, and then we found some separation and some bad stuff that happened later, right? So, and that's the point of working with the Army Corps of Engineers. Like, hey, let's run this through the gauntlet and let's focus on the pavement. Let's make sure that we're doing this appropriately. Let's go test it and lay some actual asphalt, because you got to have customer environment and, field studies alongside laboratory testing. So, but, we can grow into DOT world. We can grow into the municipality world. Let's go after those, sustainable, focused private sector, and let's do it together. So, because I can guarantee you, if I lay asphalt with somebody, I'm going to be in their ear saying, "Hey, what do you think?" Sending stuff out. We can analyze with drones for utilize technology and do some superior scanning and everything. There's a lot of different ways to work it, but it's just let's go launch and let's go work together with the industry.
Little plug. I'm sitting in Pittsburgh in an office in Pittsburgh, and PNC Bank, if you're out there, just happens to be one of the greenest companies that I know. So
yeah, they've got a pretty good. I think they did a LEED Platinum, didn't they?
Yeah. You guys need help.
They're focused on it.
This guy right down here, he can help you.
Right on. Specializes in banks. Did you know that?
Yeah. Give them
the drive-through technology, I think they're calling it.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's awesome. So the hot patch on demand, Steve, is that like your first product? That's the one I've read the most about.
Yeah. So that's a technology that we acquired. Is developed by the Army Corps of Engineers. We acquired and took it to the Air Force. And are working with the Air Force. It's a rapid heating patch solution, primarily for Air Force runways. We're commercializing it for the private sector as well, and testing that viability and seeing, is that a service type setup where it's added to a fleet of people that are out there, doing pavement repairs, or is it something that the end user, the Chicago O'Hares of the world are buying and having on for international flights. So we're working a lot through the military with it, and that's kind of the initial launch market. We were fortunate enough to receive an AFWERX contract, which is a newer, innovative wing of the Air Force's SBIR/STTR program. So where they do faster awards, open topic, and really have a focus of working with startups. So that kind of got our launch. We went through the Clean Tech Open Accelerator in 2019. We won the Midwest, and we're one of the national finalists. And there we could see that there was an absolute, market for the plastic asphalt. We could also see the sustainability trend coming, and there was an opportunity to participate in some grants and industry, financing, benefits and everything. It's a longer path, but we could do it where, the most expensive money to raise is when you're still de-risking the company and answering questions. Sure. And so we have turned down the VC offers so far. And we'll figure out if that's a strategy in the future or whether we continue to grow, with a non-dilutive capital thing. But we needed that. It's like, okay, if we're going to pursue the quote, the free money or whatever out there, it's a longer path. We need a faster path to revenue and a launch thing. And we were always focused that we hated the difference between cold patch and hot patch, right? Cold patch is great, right? Super convenient. It sucks. It doesn't last. So hot patch, is awesome performance-wise, but not convenient. We either have to wait on the heaters and the hot boxes, or patch facilities are closed or not open or not even around, right? Depending on geographic location. And so we always felt there was something in the middle. The military developed it. It's military standard. So, it is literally, we're testing this stuff with F-15 fighter jets. So little different than, mom's, Prius or, Ford,
minivans or something. Yeah.
But, the nice thing is when, you go and you talk to people and like, well, we got some pretty heavy trucks and stuff that come through here. It's like, oh yeah, well, we tested with fighter jets. Is it heavier and more expensive than that?
Steve, you trying to say that cold patch wouldn't hold up for a F-15 fighter jet?
6 passes max is what we've seen.
So, that's what the science says.
Well, if it made it through one.
Yeah. So it does not last. 4 to 6 passes is what we saw with all the testing, and that's from your economy mix all the way up to the quote more durable cold patches and perma patches and all that. Not the name brand, but the this stuff lasted 1,000 passes. So it had the same performance of hot patch. So that's where we coined it hot patch on demand or hot pod. Building that out. We're in a military contract that ends at the end of this year with the Air Force. And then what that'll do is that's basically producing a commercial ready product for military standard. And then that will be ready to roll out, globally if desired. So we're working with some different bases and some different units. There's different needs for this, over stateside. And we did testing with the Royal Canadian Air Force. It's more about that potholes and, freeze thaw. And other parts of the world, it's about, rapid sustainment and response and recovery for, wartime type efforts or natural disasters.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. So is some of this technology,
I'm
sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Be cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to call the other guests we've had and tell them they just didn't level up. This is incredible. I'm just kidding. No, this is great though. This is a lot of fun to learn about, man. You obviously have had a great experience building out to this point, and like Brian said, we wish you nothing but luck, man. I love your passion, and this is pretty neat. Any change to the asphalt industry is more than welcome. Just to, it's exciting. It really is cool. So again, Brian was a little more focused on the asphalt part. I want to ask you about the kettle corn. You've got another business called Yummy Kettle Corn. Is that still going on right now?
It is. So it's a food business and mainly event driven. So it was something that my wife and I started originally to have money for college for the kids. So we started under a tent and quickly grew to a trailer, and then each kid we added something. So the second kid we added a trailer, the third kid we added the truck, the fourth kid we added a factory, and so it's grown. We're one of the top kettle corn companies in Ohio. We do all the kettle corn for Ohio State University. We do usually 25-ish events a year. Obviously with COVID, that was different. So we didn't have the events. We didn't have the football season with the fans. So we've redone the website and are trying to shift more to an online model with it. And obviously my focus is at Neco. That was always like a weekend business for us. Still will be. I'll still keep it because it's sometimes cheaper to raise employees than hire them. So my kids will have a work ethic and they'll go out and, if they want to, have that money to spend or whatever, then they'll put some hours on the truck and sell some popcorn.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Well, dude, if
five kids going to college,
man, have restricted your ability to distribute samples, with Todd and I will be happy to send you. No problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can send some gift packages.
No problem at all. That's cool. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate the time. Brian, you got any other questions before we wrap this up?
No, man, brother. I just appreciate getting to know you here over the last month. And like I said, brother, we'll be your biggest cheerleaders and biggest fans, and anything that we can do to help support it. Hopefully this reaches a bunch of people, and hopefully some of those customers out there that are, customers or prospects that are looking to potentially increase their sustainability within their companies, this gets this solution on their radar. And like I said, man, anything we can do to help, we'll be there, and we'll be cheering you on for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, we appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. We've stayed, kind of quiet, and then with, some nudge and talking, with you and just others, it's time to start telling the story, right? So, I mean, we've kept a very basic website, not put too much out there. There's been some, local press. Anytime you build in a company, there's that support that, grabs onto you. But, we're at that point that we're building it. Let's make the customers, the industry, the players, part of the story, and let's do the journey together. Again, it's all about that collaborative effort. So.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we wish you the best. I think this is going to some pretty great heights here, and look forward to checking in with you a few months down the road. Maybe we can have a check-in podcast this summer and see how everything's going. And like Brian said, if there's anything we can do to help you, we'd love to. So NecoTech, Steve Flaherty was our guest. This was great. Really appreciate everybody joining us here for the Pavement Group episode 11. We'll see you soon for episode 12. Take care, everybody. Thank you.